Hello, everyone. I hope you guys are doing well.
Good night, Miss.
Good night, everyone. Yes, we're going to start with the attendance, and I'm doing attendance a little different tonight. I'm going to be asking random persons questions from chapter 1, just to see how much you remember. We need to continue studying and retaining information because you guys will be having a test soon. And so it's important to keep sharp. All right, so as I go through the attendance, I will call random persons to answer questions. Shanley? She's not here. Okay, so Shanley, your question is, can you define the term MIS? What's an MIS?
MIS is Management Information System. It's the I think the bonding between persons, technology, and information.
Close enough. All right, so it's technology, organization, people. It's a study of those and the relationships among them. Close enough. All right. Tidisha.
Good night, Miss.
Okay. There is a mnemonic that we use to remember the definition of MIS, Management Information Systems. Do you remember what that mnemonic is?
Miss, I'm sorry, I can't really hear you. I don't know if it's mine, but you're breaking up.
Ooh. Let me see.
Can you repeat that, please?
Okay, just a second. There is a mnemonic that we use to define the term MIS. Do you remember what that mnemonic is?
No, Mom, I don't.
All right. Let's see if Shanice can help you out. Shanice, are you here? Shanice isn't here? Okay, Juana. She's not here either. Tiana?
Hi, good night, Miss.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, my mic
Could
wasn't
you
working.
please repeat the question, Miss?
Okay, so there is a
The
mnemonic.
mnemonic?
Yes, do you remember it?
Miss, isn't it the top or Tom?
Okay, that's one of them, but there's a mnemonic we use. It starts with an S.
And
if you remember.
Miss, you're breaking up, Miss.
Okay, I'm changing my location. Just a minute. All right. All right, is this better? Hello?
I can hear you, Miss.
Okay, yes, I was using a different location because outside is a little noisy right now. And so I was trying to avoid that, but it seems that you're not, the internet was, yes, somebody wrote it in the chat. Let's see who that was. Oh, spot a rat, Jalen. Almost got it. Okay, so the mnemonic is spot a rat.
But don't like the same thing because it does have to change up the word.
Well, I guess it could work that way. So he's using stop rat, and that one helps him to remember the definition of MIS. Okay, thank you, Jalen. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was trying to click on the mic, but it wasn't coming on.
That's Juana, right?
Yes, Mom.
Okay, let me fix that. Ended. And Shanice, are you here? No. Okay, so Daniel.
Wait, did you call my name, Keisha?
Keisha, not yet. Daniel?
Yes, Miss.
Okay. All right, so Daniel, we had a reading assignment and you were to read about writing literature reviews. Have you gotten to do that reading assignment as yet?
No, mom.
Okay. Vanetta, how about you?
Miss, I read some of it.
Okay.
You can question me, but I'm not sure if I'll have the answer.
All right. Just tell me one thing you remember from the reading assignment, from the article you read.
1 minute. You said the article or chapter 1, Miss?
No, there was an article that was shared with you on Moodle, and it speaks all about literature reviews and writing them. Did you read that one?
No, Miss.
Okay,
Not
you
that
didn't
one.
read that one. Okay, so tell me what you remember from reading chapter 1 then. Anyone think?
For me, it was the adding of value to an organization. So in terms of having different information systems, it helps boost productivity for the company. So information systems tend to make the work a lot easier in terms of like having to not manually do it. That was my take in terms of how I interpret it, because I work in the accounting department. And it would take a long while for us to do those work if we had to do it by hand. So information system, especially the one that we use, Peachtree, is very user friendly in terms of getting the information into the system, but how it actually takes in the information and what we could get out in terms of the different reports. So your balance sheet, your income statement, your expense reviews, stuff like that. For me, that's what I equate it to.
Thank you, Vanetta. That was really good. Dominique, we mentioned 6 strategic business objectives of information systems. How many of them can you remember right now?
I think survival is one. Strategic business objectives.
We use the acronym COINS, so that's a little clue right there. So you got survival, that's one.
Yeah, then I have organizational something. And not come to mind right now, miss, right now.
Okay. All right, so he remembers one. I think he's probably a little tired because I just put him on the spot. Let's see if Karen can help you out. Karen, do you remember another one of the strategic business objectives apart from survival? Okay, Karen is not here. Keisha.
Miss Customer Supplies Intimacy.
All right, very good. That's one. Martha, can you give us another one?
Operational excellence.
Very good. Shanika.
Improve decision making, competitive advantage.
All right, so she gave us 2. Okay, so those are some of our strategic business objectives. Next person is Zulmi. Zulmi, in your own words, how do you see information systems transforming businesses today?
Hi, good night. I would say that they're really adding value and helping in the decision making. As they're making the work easier and more efficient for everyone.
Thank you, Zulmi. Natasha.
Yes, ma'am. Good night.
Good night. So Natasha, we spoke about some disciplines within information systems management. Do you remember any of those disciplines? You could give us either from the technical approach or the behavioral approach.
Management science.
Okay, very good. That's one.
Computer science. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so she gave us two. Very good. Diona? Can you give us two more, Diona? Okay, she's not here. All right, Gabriel, can you give us two more disciplines? Gabriel isn't here. Starla, any two disciplines? Jalen? Oh, go ahead, Starla.
Miss, I don't remember right now.
You forgot already? All right, just think back to your first graded forum. You had to write about them. Do you remember any of the ones that you mentioned? Or you could mention a course that you did.
Hey, miss, sorry.
That falls under one of those disciplines.
Miss, does it have to do like with the
Sorry,
psychology?
what was your question, miss? My signal was giving a trouble a little bit.
All right, I'm coming back to you. Right now we're at Starla. So Starla, you could give us one of the courses that you did that falls under one of those disciplines, even if you don't remember the name of the discipline right now.
Business management.
Okay, very good. All right, back to Diona. Same thing for you. You could either give us one of the disciplines of MIS or one of the courses that you did, which falls into the categories of those disciplines.
I believe psychology and sociology, if I'm not mistaken, miss. One for MIS and economics as well too.
Excellent. So that's encouraging. You know, when you guys forget, it makes me question if you did the assignment yourself. I'm just taking it you're tired tonight, okay? So I'm just checking back. Gabriel, are you in class?
Yes, miss.
All right, give us one of the courses that you did that falls into either our technical approach or our behavioral approach.
I would say business ethics.
Okay, that one could fall into one of the disciplines.
Business ethics, miss.
Yes, thank you. All right, Jalen already answered a question for us earlier. So the next person to answer will be Annalie. Annalie, you're going to answer the question, how will MIS help you in your career?
Hi, good night, miss. MIS will help me in my career because it will give me knowledge on the different computer systems that will be used in the workplace.
All right, thank you. All right, so presently I have Karen and Shanice absent. Oh, Karen, I'm just checking, are you here? Oh, Karen says she's trying to type. I just saw your text. All right, so you're here. And Shanice, just checking back, are you in class? No? Okay, so Shanice is the only person absent today. Everybody else is present.
Miss, I think Shanice said that she was finishing up a quiz from another class. So that's the reason she's late.
That was Shanika, but I'm here now.
Oh, Shanika. All right, good.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let me just submit this. Tonight, we have just a few objectives. And I'm going to get into those in a little. We want to go over the live session objectives. Just in case you are new to the course, there are a few persons who joined the class late. We'll also be looking at the assignments that you have coming up, as well as some feedback, giving you some feedback on the case studies. And tonight, we're supposed to have some presentations as well. We will end the session with question and answer segment. The purpose of these sessions that we have is to ensure that you're understanding when assignments are due, what is due, and how to get the maximum points for each of those assignments. It's also to ensure that you don't fall behind in your coursework and that your groups are functioning well. Sometimes collaborating in teams is a challenge, especially now that we're working online. There may be some difficulties, and we want to ensure that you can work together as a group, as a team in this class as you prepare for the workplace. So the mnemonic that we were speaking about earlier was spot a rat, and Jalen gave us a different way that he remembered it, but it's the study of people, organizations, technology, and the relationships among them. It doesn't matter what order you put this in, if it's people, if you put organizations, then people, then technology, or technology, organizations, people, it doesn't matter the order. But these three things are important to remember, as well as the word relationships among them. It adds value. MIS adds value to organizations. Somebody mentioned that in our revision session a while ago. And how does it add value? Whenever we ask you how, we are speaking about coins. So just think about the acronym COINS, and this COINS has 2 C's in it. And each of those letters represents one of the 6 strategic business objectives. If you don't know them as yet, it's just an opportunity for you to see what you need to go back and review so that you are prepared for any upcoming assessments. You did Forum 1 already, and since this is our first week in our 3-week process, you will have another forum that we'll be looking at tonight, breaking down what is required for that forum and answering any questions you have about it. In our second week, which would come after this, that's the week of the 12th of September, that's when you would start working on practical project 2. Most of you finish practical project 1 by now. I've been able to look at your websites, your videos as well, and grade your work. So let's look at forum 2. For this forum, the process that we'd like you to pay attention to is on the screen. We'd like you to define the keywords that are being highlighted in the forum, determine all the liabilities, all the assets, and the part that we really want you to pay attention to is how you would change the process that we're going to speak about. How would you change that process, and what kind of system would you implement to ensure that we have a smoother running system and a smoother running UB? You'll also be required to illustrate a diagram of how step by step you would implement the system and what are the processes that would make the system flow well. Finally, you'll be required to classify the information system. So let me go to Moodle and give you an idea of what that forum is talking about as we look at the requirements for it. It's here, and it's global e-business and collaboration. All right, I'm gonna ask Dominic to read the instructions for us nice and loud.
1 second, miss, for the Zoom. Forum number 2, global e-business and collaboration. Applying to the University of Belize is a time-consuming and expensive process. Students wishing to enroll have questions, and when calling the university, at times it is difficult to get through to the right person to help answer those questions. At times, callers are kept on the line waiting for someone to assist while their phone credits diminish. In addition, students struggle to deliver their packages to the admissions office or send their packages via mail to the university and wait to hear if their packages were successfully delivered. Potential students who visit the admissions office for the first time spend quite some time trying to locate the admissions unit to hand deliver their application forms. Therefore, you have been hired as a consultant by the University of Belize to contribute a solution to the problem that exists in the admissions department regarding the application system. As a consultant, it is vital that you identify the current business processes and propose new business processes to help solve this problem. Explain in your response the importance of business processes. In addition, explain how information technology can help improve the application process at the University of Belize admissions department. Clearly outline business processes by steps and illustrate using a figure.
Thank you, Dominic. So we're seeing right here, several things are happening. Some of you are familiar with this because of the time that you enroll at UB, and this is a reality to many of you. And if you are given the power now as a consultant to the University of Belize, and the ball is in your court, we're saying, how would you improve some of the services that we offer? Right here, you're seeing the frustration of many students who've gone before you and some who might be coming later on. If you had the opportunity to improve this process of admissions, registering, etc., what are some of the steps that would be in that process? Now, there are terms that you need to highlight and define. We see, for example, business processes. Some of these terms you will learn as you go through the interactive slides prepared by Dr. Ryan. And it's every forum, you must complete the interactive slides in order to complete the forum and get your maximum points. So business process is one of those things that you will have to define. You'll have to look at other terms coming out from those interactive slides that you can use to justify your responses and the solutions that you're proposing as a consultant. You also need to look at what are some assets that you see here from this forum. They're in there, but you have to look very carefully. What are some of the implied things that you're seeing? And also, what are some of the liabilities? As you go through this, you will be able to respond to these questions. Okay, so that's the idea behind the forum. You start with defining the terms. You look at your liabilities, your assets. You speak about what would be assets, what would be liabilities, or the system in it itself. How must they change processes to implement that information system successfully, the system that you are proposing as a consultant? And what classification of information system is this? Tonight, we'll be looking briefly at just a few classifications of information systems in class. Forum 2 is going to become due at 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night because 12 a.m. is Monday morning, right? Even though it says midnight. But 0000 would be Monday morning. Just in case the system has any time glitches, it's best to submit it 11:59 on Sunday, the latest, so that it's not late. Now for case studies, every student is going to be given one case study, and you only have to present that case study once for the term, once for the semester. Forums, however, and all the other assignments, with the exception of your final project, are cyclical. So every first week, we have a forum. Every second week, we have a practical project, but the case studies are based on where you're assigned or what date you're assigned in the course calendar. There are only 2 tests for the semester. Your first test will be near mid-semester, and your final test will be just before exam week. Just a minute, let me go into the classroom. So on Moodle, you'll be able to see those assignments listed there, your forums, your practical projects. And in addition to posting the practical projects, what Dr. Ryan has also included are benchmark projects, just in case you're working on an assignment and you're not quite sure what the outcome should be. You can always go back and look at those examples. Additionally, Chapter 2's slides are also included here for those who might be new to the course. When you click on it, it takes you to the link, and these you can easily download. For this unit, we have just 5 objectives. We'd like to learn what are business processes. So you'll see that coming out in your forum. You have to find out what is a business process. How do I explain this in my own words? How are they related to information systems? Why are they even important for us to study? Why do systems serve different management groups in a business? And how do the systems that link the enterprise improve organizational performance? Why are systems for collaboration and social business so important? And what technologies do they use? What is the role of information systems function in the business? And how will MIS help our career? The last person we checked who responded in the attendance spoke a little bit on this. But these are some of the things that we'd like coming out from this unit as we look at information systems management. By now, each of you knows the definition of MIS. And if you don't know it verbatim, you're learning it at least. It's a study of 3 things: people, technology, and the organization, as well as the relationships among them. Tonight, we'll briefly look at business processes. And when you go through the interactive slides, you'll be able to learn much more about those, as well as going through the reading material. Business processes. When we think of processes, we think of things happening in sequence to produce a result. Business processes looks at the flows of material, information, knowledge, logically related sets of tasks, which define how specific business tasks are performed. They may be tied to functional or even cross-functional areas within an organization. For example, sales would be a business process. That's one functional unit within an organization or a department. And they have a specific objective that they want to fulfill in that sales department. They have specific roles that they fulfill there. They will not be doing the same thing that a human resource person would do, nor would they be doing the same thing that your financial officer might do. They have specific roles, responsibilities, and materials that they're going to be using. Specific types of information will apply to them that might not apply, for example, to the IT unit. However, knowledge affects every part of our organization. And finally, in our parking lot, we'll be looking at enterprise applications. And these are really systems for linking the enterprise, and they span these functional areas. When I say functional areas, I'm still referring to business processes. So in summary, those are the 3 things that we'll be looking at. I have a question for you guys. So imagine that the president of the University of Belize sent me a memo, and he said, you know, Mrs. Lambe, I want you to know that the board and the members of the executive committee at the University of Belize decided that students have the same rights, freedoms, and privilege of full-time staff at the University of Belize. They now have the rights and access to all of our departments within the University of Belize. They can access registry, they can access the finance department, the accounting unit, they can access grades, they can go to ODL and even manipulate the classes that are set up. They can go into old modules or look at the modules that are being developed right now. They have access to every department and every unit within the University of Belize. Now, if you were given this, if I had to share this memo with you, and you are told you can go into any of the departments that you feel like within the University of Belize and use the resources because you now have access, which one would you go to first and why? Which one would you go to first?
Could you repeat the question, Miss?
You have access to every department and the resources that each of the departments at UB has because you've been given permission by UB's management and board. Which of the departments would you go to and what would you be doing there?
Miss, I would go to the accounts department.
Can you tell me why?
And I would, and clear my bill, Miss.
Okay, thank you, Annalie. What about Gabriel? Which one would you visit and why?
Yes, I would go to the business process because I would want to learn about the whole process university, the process they go through, so maybe I can have a better idea. So maybe I can open my own or have an idea how to run one.
Okay, so remember the business processes are all those departments, the functions that happen in all the different departments. So you can pick, maybe you're thinking of management, those who are on the board, maybe that's where you want to go. All right, let's hear from Natasha.
Miss, I would, I try to put a lot of thought into it. I'd want to go probably to maybe the finance or the accounting and read up on the different qualifications when it comes to getting grants and stuff like that in that sense, because I'm thinking probably it doesn't apply to bachelors, right? But I'm thinking about the associates level where a lot of students don't know that if you have a certain GPA after your first year of your first 2 semesters, the government actually pays your tuition, I believe. So you only have to pay the administrative fees. So I want to learn more about those different things and also learn about the different scholarships that are available and what you need to do in advance so you can work on it from the start.
All right, so we heard from 3 different persons. We heard from Natasha, we heard from Gabriel, we heard from Annalie, and each of them had a different objective that they wanted to fulfill. Now, some of you might have, who didn't get to speak, might have been saying, man, I want to go right to records and just change my GPA from last year because I wasn't ready for school last year. So I'm just going to change that. Whatever class I didn't do so well in, I'm going to fix that grade because I want scholarship opportunities like Natasha. And people often give you opportunities when you have a higher GPA. We want to do things for different reasons, but one of the things that we would like to highlight tonight is the importance of structures within an organization and rules. I don't know how many of you, I know this is a little off topic, but I don't know how many of you saw the news recently where these three young men were asked to leave the school because their haircut was, well, the hair was too long for the school's policy. Any of you saw that article or read it?
Yes, miss.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Silas.
What were your sentiments on that?
My sentiments are, what does your hair have to do with learning? I don't know, maybe. That's just me.
Okay, anybody
Miss,
else?
Miss, I think they should follow the rules because sometimes like having this like a kind of blend hair gives like a distraction.
Miss, I just believe that when establishments set rules, they're there for guidance. You have to obey the rules, no care what part you go. School, hospital, workplace, you have to obey the rules.
Yeah, that's what my sentiments are, that it's not really about the hair per se, it's just like the principle behind it. If you have guidelines and rules set in place, then you should abide by them, and it helps with discipline in the longer run. So it's all about discipline in my opinion.
And those are some really good points that we brought out. So I'm hearing arguments in favor of the boys. Some are against, not necessarily against, but you're focusing on the rule. And I believe at the end of the day, that was really what was being emphasized. I agree with you when you say hair has nothing to do with learning. It's not going to block. I don't know that it's scientifically proven that hair is going to block your ability to learn. But I do agree that if there are policies in place and you agreed to those policies, then you should abide by them.
Yes, but I just want to say that I believe that if your hair is decent and in a proper way, the police went through the same problem when it comes to hairstyle. But I believe once your hair is in a decent style, I don't see how it has to do with you doing your job or doing what you have to do. I understand about the guidelines and the respect, but once it's decent, now if it's rough and then you know that's different. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Who determines what is decent and what isn't? Because different people have different opinions on what is decent and what isn't. And just like we saw in the report, it said the hair must be short, but there wasn't anything that says, you know, this is what we consider short or this is not what we consider short. So even in that, it has to be clearly outlined. And I know we're going a little off topic, but I'm using this to show similarly in businesses, we have departments, we have business processes, and those would be, business processes would be like sales, accounting, manufacturing, assembling the product, finance and accounting. All of these are business processes. And if people just decided that they're going to do what they wanted to do without adhering to some of the directives, or at least the directives given by management, then there could be problems later on. Now we're saying this is just here, right? And it probably has nothing to do with businesses in the future. But imagine if we were given the same privilege as these students in, for example, if you're working in public service. Some persons, if you want to wear your hair a certain way, you have to justify it by saying, this is based on my faith. And saying, my faith tells me that I can wear my hair like this. Otherwise, you'll be told, cut your hair. Back in the days, this was, I don't know if it's still happening in Belize, but for dark-skinned women who had afro, you know, the curly hair, they were told that they had to process their hair. Otherwise, they couldn't work for certain places. And this happened throughout the Caribbean. Recently, in more recent years, we've been seeing women who have, you know, afro hair speaking up and saying, this is a hairstyle and you can't tell me that this is not a professional look. But even though some persons are allowed to wear their hair like that, no, we still have debates. And I believe that what we're seeing is that we have to have clearly outlined clearly defined guidelines in terms of what are rules, what should we follow, and how is this going to benefit the organization. So within these units, there are structures that are in place. For example, somebody from accounting can't just go to manufacturing and production and decide that they're going to just work there and, you know, forget their responsibilities in that unit. In organizations, and especially when we're looking at information systems, they have specific rules. And without them doing their tasks in a timely fashion, we will have delays and there will be other problems. So, for example, in sales, they have the responsibility of generating orders and then submitting those orders to accounting. When it reaches accounting now, they will check the person's credit balance. If it passes, then the credit is approved and then an invoice is generated. That now is sent to manufacturing, and they, based on the information sent, they will be able to assemble the quantity of products required by the client. And those products are sent to the address that was given by the client. But we'll also see these dotted lines here separating each of our business process or functional units. Sales, for example, will have their own information system. Accounting might have a different information system from the one that sales has. And manufacturing and production might have a totally different information system. What problem do you see arising there if 3 of these functional units have 3 different information systems?
When it's time to process the data through the 3 different systems, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult since they're using 3 different methods.
Okay, so you said it would be difficult. Difficult how?
Challenging. Well, if they're not using, because you're saying that they're using different methods, right? It wouldn't be the same.
Right. Okay, so if they're using different systems, and this is just an assumption here, if they are using different systems, then like you said, it will be a challenge. Why? Imagine the persons from sales, after they've put in all that data entry work, they send a report to accounting, but accounting system is not compatible with the system that sales uses. Somebody is going to have to enter all that data that has been generated from that report into the accounting system. Do you see the work being repeated? This is extra work. And then the same thing here, if it's not compatible, they have to re-enter all of that data into this system so that these people will have the information on time to ship it to the persons that it's required to go to. But if we have a breakdown, let's say Veronica is working in accounting and she's the person who sends the report, but she's sick for the week. What's going to happen to manufacturing and production? They are going to have a delay unless somebody else is going to fill in for Vanetta. We have problems like that. And information systems exist so that we can solve some of these problems, or at least try to reduce them. Problems like delays, we want to avoid that. We want to optimize our tasks or automate some of our tasks so that we don't have to keep repeating the same thing over and over. Information systems also looks at business intelligence. And the intelligence comes from the data and the reports that are generated from these information systems. Tonight, we'll be looking at 4 different types of information systems. There's the TPS, or Transaction Processing System, the MIS, or Management Information System. And before you start asking me, but Ms. Lambert, isn't that the name of this course? Isn't Management Information Systems the study of people, technology, etc.? Well, this one is a little different, and I'm going to get to that in a little. We also have the Decision Support System and the Executive Support System. So let's look at the first one. This is like the godfather of all information systems, the Transaction Processing System. It's the oldest one, and all it really did was to have a record of who did what and how many sales were made. Just the transactions, that's all it did. But it didn't generate reports. It didn't help the decision with decision making, sorry. It didn't help with anything like that. All it did was generate reports. So the employee would enter their data that goes into the payroll system, but that was it. The reports that we now get from our information systems are coming from these over here, these 3 that we consider business intelligence systems. Transaction processing system, however, all it did was to log data. We couldn't generate our Excel graphs, etc. from this. So starting here, excuse me, we have our business intelligence systems. And intelligence helps us to formulate decisions from the reports that are being generated. The first one is the MIS. And what makes this different is that MIS and MIS are spelled a little differently. One ends with an S and the other one doesn't. So the study of people, technology, etc., that's management information systems with an S at the end. That's the umbrella that these information systems fall under. So the MIS, Management Information System, minus the S at the end, is just a type of information system, which falls under Management Information Systems. So that could be a trick question that I put in the exam, just to see if you guys were paying attention in the test, sorry. That's the first one that we'll be looking at. That Management Information System, it is different from the transaction processing because although it's built from the concept of the transaction processing system, it does a little bit more. From this system, you're able to generate reports, and those reports allow managers to make decisions within the organization. They're able to compare sales from last month to this month. They're able to see what inventory needs to be restocked, etc. They're able to get something that they can use, which makes it a little different from the transaction processing system. That system only told us who logged or who was the cashier for the day. Today, we were visited at work by the team from Social Security. And since I'm in IT, you know, my department, we nitpick a lot. And we were complaining about something, but they are actually working on it at Social Security as we speak. I don't know how many of you have access to their online portal now. They have a service for, I'm trying to remember the name, but it's slipping me. But in that portal, you're able to see your name, your parents' name, and that's all that you're able to see right now. So we're saying, but we wanted to be able to see things like how many contributions we've made, etc. However, that is something that they're going to be working on. In that, we would look at that system as a management information system because from it, they would be able to generate reports from all the payments, every contribution we've ever made from we've started working and we signed up at Social Security. Those should be logged there. And we could go into that portal, check to see what the contributions are. And if we have any queries, we can always contact them because the system does have that feature. There's also the decision support system. This one, based on the studies from La-Dene and La-Dene, also supports middle management. They look at non-routine tasks and they help you to ask the question, what if? So it's not just looking at the data and saying, okay, this is comparing sales from last month to this month, but it helps to assess more complex situations. So we use the what if questions that require internal and external data. This decision support system is different from the MIS because it's taking results or taking reports not just from inside the organization, but also from external factors and outside the organization. The MIS only looks at what's happening inside or internal to the organization. This decision support system allows you to be able to take the data when it's compared and form patterns, predict trends, etc. And it helps with the decisions that the higher ups or your executives at top level would have to make. They're primarily used by middle and lower level managers to project the future. There are also, some textbooks will refer to them as EISs, in terms of predicting the future by EISs, right? So the executive support system is what is being referred to as the EIS here. And it's primarily to serve the control the needs of higher level management. So higher level management would be using this last system that I'm about to show you, which is the ESS or the EIS, as I just showed you. Executives will need to be able to ensure that your business can survive. That's one of the strategic business objectives, right? Survival. So they're going to take the reports that are coming in from middle management and all through the organization, look at it and find out where they're failing, where they're meeting their goals, where there are threats. These executive support systems also looks at what's happening in government. The high gas prices, how is that affecting our business? Animal rights activists are on strike and we sell leather purses. How is that going to affect our business? They look at things like that. They're looking at politics, government, regulations, unions. And so this again is where rules come into play. What are the tactics that we can use? How are our values as an organization aligned with what's happening in the real world? Are we going against the norms that are out there? Are we representing women well? For example, right now there is a big movement on feminists, for example. Are our values in alignment with that, etc.? So these are the three types of business intelligence systems that we are referring to. And they all were designed based on the structure of the transaction processing system. Although the TPS is a little outdated and we no longer use it as much as we would use these business intelligence systems, it formed the foundation for these to exist. Perhaps operational level management would still use the TPS. Persons in sales, cashiers would just, just at the cash register, they would just swipe your items and then give you the receipt. So that's an example right there. But typically what we want to do is not just say that somebody cashed 3 mangoes and this was the receipt. We want to see how is this data that we're collecting able to form reports that can inform us as an organization. How can management use the reports that are being generated to direct, to plan, to coordinate, communicate within the organization, and how can it help them with decision making? So I just have some characteristics here. The TPS is usually used by lower level managers. The MIS usually used by middle management as well as the DSS. And there's one that we won't necessarily be discussing much, but you should know about it, the OAS. And so these are looking at the enterprise applications. We'll be speaking about knowledge management systems, and those will be coming up in a little while. All right, so just a recap. Let me call on persons who haven't spoken as yet. We have senior management at the top, middle management at the middle, and operational workers at the bottom. I'm going to be asking persons to help me to place these into the areas they belong. So let's start with Jalen. Jalen, where should the transaction processing system be placed?
At the top, the senior level manager.
You sure? Up here?
I believe.
Okay, so the transaction processing system is actually going to go all the way down at the bottom for operational workers. They're like your cashiers, the persons that don't necessarily have to make decisions, because this transaction system is just telling you how many of an item they bought and who cashed it. That's all. So it's not helping us to make decisions. Senior management is a group of persons that will have to make decisions to direct the company for the future. All right, let's go on to Shanily. Shanily, where would I put the MIS? Is it senior or middle management? Okay, I'm not hearing Shanily. I'm not sure if she's not able to speak. So let's go on to Tiana. Tiana, where would I put the MIS? Is it senior or middle management? Senior? Not quite. All right, so this one is actually for middle management. So there's two of them that go under middle management. and that's the MIS and the decision support system. All right, so these, you'll have to study them if you're going to be able to do your first forum, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to classify the type of information, sorry, your second forum, the type of information system you have. So the last person I'm going to call is Keisha. Where does the executive support system go? Operational, senior, or middle management?
The senior.
That's correct. Very good, Keisha. All right, so as soon as you hear the word executive, you know that this goes all the way at the top. Transactions are done by lower level management or your operational workers. And then decision and MIS, those both fall in the middle. So some of you are saying, but don't managers make the decisions? Well, the reports that are generated here are going to be sent to your managers, your senior level managers, for them to direct the company. All right, so this is what you should have if I ever asked you to fill out a chart like this again. The last thing we'll summarize tonight, before we have our case study presentation, is enterprise applications. And I'll just mention them tonight because I'd like you to go through the interactive slides by Dr. Ryan. There's 4 of them: knowledge management systems, customer relationship management systems, supply chain management systems, and enterprise systems. What these systems do is to show us that within the organization, although we have the functional areas, which would be like sales and marketing, etc., information must be applied from all levels of management, from the top level to the middle level to the lower level, right? And as the information flows, sometimes the regular information system might just focus on one area or one aspect of the hierarchy, like we saw a while ago. Now, these enterprise application allows for knowledge to flow throughout the departments, throughout the organization, so that people can serve the department better or serve the business better. These are the 4 that you're going to be listening to and making sure you understand for our class on Thursday. So when we come on Thursday, I'll be asking you these questions. All right?
That's a question.
Yes.
So these information systems that we were discussing just now, MIS, DSS, ESS, and TPS, so those are separate, they would say separate information systems, right? Like in my department's case, we have one information system that we basically use, which would be like what the acronym is ASECUDA, which is automated system for customs data. But under that, it's basically cordoned off, or you have certain individuals have certain access or restricted access, right? So maybe you have the junior officers that would only have access to when they need to do cashier work under the CMP information system. And then there are files in there as well that senior management would have access to when they need to basically extract files for reports or whatever, or for trade purposes, whatever it might be. So I'm seeing like all these functions from these information system under that one umbrella system that we call ASECUDA. But I don't know if I misinterpret it, because to me it seems like these are separate information systems.
All right, so what you just gave is a good example of how the enterprise applications work. So even though we have the information systems, what's the goal of the ASECUDA system?
Well, ASECUDA basically stores information, trade information, and like I said, to generate reports as well, and to go back and use it. So okay. Yeah, for trade purposes mainly, facilitation of trade.
Right. So you just stated the objective is to facilitate trade. And how does it help? Is it helping middle management or senior management more? Although it does have the transaction part to it, those reports are being generated, but for what purpose? Who is it really helping? So when you can answer the goal, then you'll realize who is really benefiting from the system. Is it only just there to collect data? Not based on what you said, right? It's there to help those in authority to make certain decisions. But what are the decisions that they're going to make from the system? Usually,
that's what I'm
yeah.
saying. Like it has a little bit of everything because it has its operational purposes as well, which
so
would fall under TPS.
right. So that's why it wouldn't be considered a TPS. You'd have to look at how it's going to affect all levels of management. And I'm glad you brought up that example, because notice it would have order processing. It might not have the same units that are listed here, for example, sales and marketing and all of that. But you're seeing several different functional areas being affected by this one system. And this is why you have to go over those interactive slides. He gave a perfect example of one system that affects from lower level management right up to senior level management. And those decisions and the knowledge that is shared within the department to different functional areas is going to help them to move forward. So this, I would still consider it an MIS because one of the main things it's doing is generating reports, and those reports are being used to advise. However, based on what you know about it, you could determine if it's more of a MIS or a DSS. Is it taking information from outside as well, or just inside the organization? You know, is it comparing it to trends happening in Europe, Asia, or just the Caribbean? You know the system better than I do. So those are some questions you would have to ask yourself. And even though it might have the characteristics of one of those 4 that I mentioned, it can also be an enterprise application in the sense that it has specific functions that are going to benefit every department and every level of the hierarchy in the organization. So as you go through the interactive slides, that is going to help you to determine what type of application it is or what type of system you might be using. All right, I don't want to give you the answer because the idea is for you to do the homework. And I think I already said too much. Okay. But thank you so much for sharing that. That was a perfect example for this to explain this chart right here. Okay, so Miss Tiana, are you ready for us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you like to share the screen and then, or you want me to continue sharing for you?
You could share it for me, please.
Okay.
Okay, pleasant good night, class. Good night, miss. My name is Tiana Coleman, and today I'll do a case study presentation based on the data changes, how NFL teams play the game, and how it fancies it. This case study is basically about the importance of data collection. So for us to fully understand this case study, I'd like to do a quick refresher on what is data. Data is a collection of facts such as numbers, words, measurements, observations, or just descriptions of things. There are 2 types of data, quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative data, words and description; qualitative data, numerical elements. Data collection is important as it allows organizations to visualize relationships between what is happening in different locations, in different departments and systems, and brings all that data to make sense, which is called information. Now we'll have a synopsis of this case study for tonight. The next slide, please. This case study basically looks at the different forms of data collection used by the NFL, and these data collections are used to assess the athlete's performance and productivity. It also shows how data is presented to not only the players, but coaches and its fan base. Question 1 of this case study asks about the systems illustrated, how the data is obtained and used, and what are the inputs and outputs process. The NFL users use a play track system, which is based on a Zebra Sport solution by Zebra Technology. With this tracking system, they were able to record the player's speed, direction, location, how far and long they ran, sprinted, jogged, and walked. Now, to do this, they used a chip, and this chip is called radio frequency identification chips, also known as RFID. And these chips are basically placed under the player's shoulder pads, and it helps to transmit data to a radio receiver. These chips record the player's velocity, speed in miles per hour, etc. So earlier I mentioned that there are two types of data, qualitative and quantitative. What this chip does is this collect quantitative data, hence the reason it collects the speed and velocity. These are numbers. Whenever it collects these information, it sends it. There's also a sensor in the football that you used to play, which helps to determine the location and how far it has been thrown. Continuation of question 1, inputs and outputs. After the data is recorded from these chips and the chips inside the football, it is then transmitted to a cloud computer by another system called Amazon Web Services. The data is then processed, meaning that when processed, it becomes information. And when it's information, it can then be outputted, and it is outputted to the players, coaches, and the fan base via their website called Next Gen. And if they are fans with their Xbox One and they have the NFL app, these information is available for them. Question 2 of this case study asks about the business function. Which business function did these systems mentioned before help and supported? Business function that these systems help was that of human resources. Since the purpose of these chips and the other systems were basically for a physical assessment of the players, this helped the human resource department by assessing the football players, assessing their performance, their weaknesses and strengths. And in that case, they're also helping the operations department. Once the human resource department is able to allocate what are the weaknesses and the strengths of players, then operations will be higher. Operations is another name for production, and that simply says that when these things are identified, it helps to increase productivity. So these systems help to improve two areas, two functional areas, that of human resource and operations department. Question 3 asks, how was decision-making improved by using these systems? So the data captured by the NFL helps NFL teams make better decisions due to the recordings of the offense and defense and the moving and the playment of the players. The system, they then produce charts and graphs, giving them insight and consider other ways of improving the team's success. This also assists the NFL in making better decisions because the data improves the content of the game. For example, the way they set out on the field, the information collected, if the information they collected showed that this setup should be more effective, then that helps them as well. The NFL will be benefiting itself by offering its fans. Question 4 asks about the improvement of the business using data. What is the overall improvement? Using data help the NFL to improve its business by providing its fans and broadcasters teams better resource to make the game more interesting, appealing, and entertaining. Now, this is so because after the data collection has been gathered, they're able to produce it on large screens. They're able to produce it on the same Xbox One if they're NFL players. They're able to put a more appealing advertisement. The commentators of the game are able to broadcast and giving the fans in the stadium a better insight of whatever the players are doing. And then our final part of this presentation is the similarity of this case study in beliefs. Now, when it comes to technology and sports, Belize is not as much excel as that of the NFL, maybe our football teams and other sport areas are not as developed with information technology systems. Now, I did an interview, and this is with a gym. The name of this gym is Body by Good. And the fitness coach here explained that to track his quantitative progress with his clients, he used Google Sheets and Microsoft Bing Excel. Now, this is just to keep a record of his clients' performance. This is in the transitioning session and increase the weightlifting and muscle growth. He also uses a food scale for measuring portions of meals for clients in order for them to keep a calorie deficit or a surplus to either gain or lose weight, whichever their goal is. And he also communicated that majority of the time, his clients would track themselves by using the Apple Watches, where they are able to track their heart rate, their steps, their mode of the day, and a number of calories burned. He also explained that they are used of time watches. For example, in the football games, the coaches would use time watches and have the players run between the cones and then check their speed limit from that time watch. If there's any questions or concerns, I'm free to that before I close off my presentation.
All right, any questions for her class? Okay, I'm gonna ask you the thing that stood out to you the most. I have questions for the class more than I have questions for you because you were very thorough. What stood out to you the most from this presentation?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, for me it was the method of quantitative data collection with the chip inside the football, which measured basically speed and numbers. And all in all, it was just for, you know, the physical assessment of the players to see their strengths and weaknesses. So that was very innovative, and you know, it struck me. I did not know that's how they did it. So that stood out to me the most.
Was the chip on the ball or the player's shoulders?
Okay, so there's the shoulder and the ball.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Miss, and that stood out to me as well because that's how the reporters get set highlights of the game. I honestly think that just from what I observed, but that thing when I get out of the information system as well.
Okay, so they really take sports very seriously over there, and it would be really good if we had some of that here in Belize. I say we have really raw talent, just that it needs to be trained and coached. And a lot of Caribbean territories take sports seriously in the region. Belize does too, but I think what we don't have is perhaps the respect as a nation for athletes. I notice in other Caribbean territories, if you're an athlete, that's your full-time job. You don't have to work a second job. And they commit, students start from early in their primary school years, and they do mini Olympics, and they compete as if they're competing in the professional setting on the professional stage. Here, we're seeing that they're also taking sports pretty seriously. They're getting the analytics to show how they can improve. So they're using people, they're using the technology, and as an organization, they're combining all of that for the benefit of the country. One of the ways that Belize can earn is to have more athletes competing and winning in the World Cup and on the global scene. every athlete who wins brings in certain amount of money for the country. And if we really give our athletes the respect that they deserve and give them the opportunities to train and really excel in that arena, our country could also benefit from that. Yes, the athlete gets the major part of the funds, but the country gets recognition and they also get some benefits financially from the athlete's work. So those are some things that, you know, our country could also benefit from. Very good presentation, Tiana. Are there any more questions for her? My computer is freezing. No? All right, so we are about to wrap up here. When we meet on Thursday, guys, I encourage you to go over the article
Excuse me,
on
Miss.
Moodle. Yes, go ahead.
Did you get my slide? I was supposed to present today.
Oh, no, I didn't see your slide.
I shared it with you through email.
Okay, what I'm going to do, because we're out of time, I'm going to let you present in our class on Thursday. Is that okay?
Okay, sure, Miss.
All right, because I don't want to keep anybody later. It's already over the time. All right, thank you, guys. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening. Please complete your forum and the interactive slides. And when you get a chance, please read up on how to prepare a literature review because you'll need to start working on that soon.